Attorney General, during the department's criminal investigation of Hunter Biden, investigators gave Hunter's counsel a heads up regarding their future investigative actions, specifically a pending search warrant. Does the Department of Justice usually tip off the defense counsel ahead of time to warn them that they'll be executing a search warrant?
You're asking me about a case that's in trial as we speak, and I'm just not going to comment on it. I think that's highly inappropriate for me to do.
Oh, this would not be inappropriate at all. Do you warn defense counsel ahead of time? Is this a standard operating procedure for the Department of Justice to notify that you're going to execute a search warrant?
I think I've answered this question before. It depends on the situation. In some circumstances, yes. In some circumstances, no. Generally not, but
so shortly after,
always.
If I may interrupt, shortly after the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago, you said upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Did the Department of Justice give the same courtesy to President Trump's counsel and warn them about the search warrant for Mar-a-Lago?
Saying the issues are determined on the ground with respect to what people are concerned about on the ground. That issue about Mar-a-Lago is also the subject of a challenge in court, and I'm not going to comment about that either.
So one, you notified defense counsel, the other one you didn't.
I don't know whether you're accurately describing what happened in the Hunter Biden case or not.
During Special Counsel Herr's investigation into whether or not President Biden retained classified documents, he found that President Biden knew the information in his possession was classified. Isn't that correct?
I don't recall the exact words of Mr. Herr, but they are what they are.
Yeah, I mean, he knew the information. Joe Biden knew the information that he had in his possession was classified. I think that's widely known.
Again, Mr. Herr testified for 5 hours in front of you, and all these questions could be asked of him. And a long report that's on the public record on this question. I'm just not going to comment, just like I didn't comment on Mr. Durham's report when people asked me to do that.
Did then Vice President Biden have the authority to declassify the classified documents he illegally retained?
Mr. Herr addressed any questions like that in his report. I know what you're really asking me about is the case in Florida, and I'm just not going to comment on matters that are being litigated in court. It's highly inappropriate for me to do that.
So you can't comment on something that's already out there publicly by Mr. Herr. Simply, did Vice President Biden, then Vice President, did he have the ability to declassify classified documents?
Mr. Herr,
does any Vice President have the ability to declassify classified documents?
It depends on who the original, I mean, the ultimate theory goes back to an executive order that depends on the originator of the classification.
Have any
this
other,
is a very long discussion about classification.
Have any other former presidents, vice presidents, or cabinet secretaries retained classified information after they left office? Have others done this?
I don't know. Mr. Herr...
Did Vice President Pence have classified documents?
Mr. Herr recounted the information that he had about past
Did former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, did she have classified documents?
No, anything more than Mr. Herr reported in his report on these matters.
How many of those that have had classified documents, either a former Vice President like Pence or Secretary of State like Hillary Clinton, how many of them were charged with retaining classified information?
Mr. Herr explained why he chose not to recommend a charge.
The answer is none of them were charged. And how many of them, none of them were charged other than President Trump. How many of them are currently running for president against President Biden?
Mr. Herr explained in detail the reasons that distinguished former president's case from the current president.
Was there opposition in the Washington field office seeking a search warrant of Mar-a-Lago?
I'm hoping that there's always discussion in field offices about the appropriate approach.
Who gave the go-ahead to do the search?
I know that the reference to the special agent that was made earlier left out the conclusion of his transcript, which is he thought it was lawful.
Who gave the go-ahead to do the search warrant, to execute the search warrant on Mar-a-Lago?
Magistrate judge in the
Department of Justice retaliating against whistleblowers?
No, that would be a violation of statute and a violation
Well,
of
the
our...
Inspector General seems to think you are. I got this Management Advisory Memorandum dated May 2024, notification of concerns regarding the Department of Justice compliance with whistleblower protections for employees with a security clearance.
I've read the management memo. I think it's a good memo. It doesn't say we've been retaliated against anybody. It says that there have to be additional protections with respect.
Is it just pure coincidence that Marcus Allen's security clearance got reinstated today? Whistleblower came in front of this committee. Democrats disparaged this guy, called him a conspiracy theorist. 27 months without his security clearance, and we find out today it's been reinstated?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know about the facts, anything about the facts of that case. Retaliation against whistleblowers is against the law, and it will be punished.
3 people who've come and talked to this committee as whistleblowers have had their security clearance taken. Marcus Allen gets his security clearance put back in place today. And the Inspector General says he's got concerns, doing an investigation as we speak about what's going on.
I'm sorry, the management memo that you're talking about does not conclude there was any retaliation against
No,
anybody.
he's putting you on notice that he's investigating.
It doesn't say
Mr. Chairman, regular order.
The gentleman from
Thank you, Mr.
California.
Chairman, and Mr. Garland over here.
For all, you use those words. Like cases treated alike, you use those words. All people are treated equal. Let's just look and review a few things. Let's look at the classified documents case. One individual is Vice President of the United States, removes documents which he has no right to do, Joe Biden. He then removes documents also before he was Vice President as a U.S. Senator, no right to do that, doesn't have the right to declassify. Yet a special counsel is appointed, and the result of that is that, well, there's nothing we're going to do because he's a kindly older gentleman that has a bad memory and it wouldn't be a good case. And yet at the same time, a president of the United States who does have a right to declassify documents, removes them, keeps them in a secure place, has the right to do it because he was a president and he's indicted. Equal justice for all. Prosecutor Bragg, and I'm going to ask you a question about this, just your opinion. He ran for office saying he was going to put Donald Trump in jail. Before he saw all the evidence, before he knew everything about the case, before he knew anything, he ran for office saying he was going to put another human being in jail and ran on that as his platform. Do you believe that it's appropriate for somebody to run for prosecutor? And by that, also in Fulton County, Georgia, the same thing happened there with the prosecutor. Do you think it's appropriate? Do you think someone who's being interviewed for a position when they're going to be appointed, or somebody who is running for office and is going to be elected at this level of government in the judiciary should say what they want to do as far as putting somebody in jail before they've even seen the case? Is that appropriate, yes or no?
Your description of the Herr and Smith cases is inaccurate. I don't know whether your description of what the two district attorneys said.
Well, then you don't look at the news. Excuse me, Attorney General, because I only have a limited amount of time. Everywhere it was reported. It was, if you knew anything, you knew that Alvin Bragg and also, again, the prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia, they ran on that. And that's wrong. That isn't equal justice for all. It's wrong, and this wasn't equal justice for all. And by the way, I think my rendition of what happened when the special counsel looked at that is pretty damn accurate. I even put the word kindly in there. Kindly old gentleman, forgetful, it wouldn't be a good case for that reason. Those are all accurate. But I want to ask you something else. Do you know who Jay Bratt is? I know that you do. He's a top aide to Jack Smith. And I know that you must be aware that Mr. Bratt attempted to pressure the defense attorney of a close Trump aide with a judgeship, if the attorney went along with Jack Smith's desires and his demands. Are you aware of that?
I know Mr. Bratt to be an excellent lawyer, a longtime career prosecutor, a person of high ethics. And I know the issue you're talking about is disputed. Those facts are disputed in the district court in Florida, and it will be resolved by the judge in that case.
Yep, and that's why the case was stopped, because it's obviously of concern. There's something there. Are you aware that on May 3rd, Special Counsel Smith himself acknowledged in a court filing that after the FBI seized evidence and its raid on Mar-a-Lago, that some of the evidence was altered, manipulated, or disturbed? Is that standard procedure?
I have not read anywhere where he said it was altered or manipulated. So again, I can't accept that characterization.
Mr. Attorney General,
not
I
gonna
want to be
comment on
respectful,
proceedings
man.
before a federal
Are you
judge.
living in a bubble here? I mean,
I'm not living in a bubble, but
good
your
God, it was
characterization
seen.
is
I mean,
false.
everybody saw it, everybody heard it. Smith himself said it. That's why that case was stopped.
If you can show me where he said he manipulated the evidence, I'll have a different.
You don't like my word, but that there was some tampering, and absolutely he said that he had touched the evidence, and we don't know what level, and now Americans are concerned, God knows what level it is and whether we'll really know the truth. And I got a question about this. Former President Trump, as you know, was being dragged through a political travesty, and you won't agree that it's a travesty, orchestrated by Alvin Bragg. How is it that a man, Matthew Colangelo, the third highest ranking individual in the Department of Justice, takes a pay cut and takes a cut in just, what it is he does for a living as far as prestige, to go and join that case? And I know you'll say you don't have the answer to that either.
I have the answer. I took an enormous pay cut to become an assistant U.S. attorney. Mr. Mueller took an enormous pay cut, both of us as partners in
But your
law firms to
prestige
work
went
for the
up.
public good. Many people have a view about doing the public good and not caring about how much money they make.
I'm going to yield in a second, but we were lied to about Catholic churches.
Point of
We were
order.
lied to about school board meetings. We were lied to about Russian collusion. We were lied to about the
Point of
president's
order.
sweetheart deal. We were lied to
Time
about
limit.
mishandling of
Time
classified
limit,
materials. We
gentlemen.
were lied to about FISA, and I